Story 1. I arrived at the charming yet isolated Airbnb on a chilly autumn evening, eager for a weekend escape from the city's relentless pace. The listing boasted a peaceful retreat, a quiet home nestled in a forgotten neighborhood with an old-world charm. However, as soon as I stepped inside, an unnerving stillness settled over me. It wasn't merely the creaks of an old house, it was an oppressive silence that seemed to press in from every shadow. At first, I chalked it up to the house's rustic nature. But then, while unpacking, I discovered an innocuous family portrait on the mantel, its subject smiling broadly. Something about the eyes in the picture felt far too knowing, as if they were tracking my every move. My pulse quickened as I began noticing subtle signs, objects ever so slightly out of place, a creak in the hallway that echoed like a whispered threat, and an inexplicable chill that crawled along my spine. Determined to convince myself that fear was playing tricks on my mind, I ventured out for a walk around the property. The quiet streets and half-lit yards offered no reassurance, only a growing sense that I was being watched. Returning inside, I heard a series of soft footsteps pacing above me, synchronized with the sound of my own heartbeat. Anxiety mounted until a knock, light yet deliberate, rattled the front door at precisely 2:13 a.m. With trembling hands, I answered. There was no one there, only an envelope placed on the doorstep with a single handwritten line, "I see you." Every rational thought dissolved into panic as I began to suspect that someone, somewhere, was orchestrating this terror. I spent the following morning combing through every inch of the property. Behind a stack of old newspapers in the hallway, I uncovered a hidden security camera discreetly mounted near the back door. Reviewing the footage, I saw a shadowy figure lurking with calculated patience, as though waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Desperate for answers, I contacted the Airbnb host, who reluctantly revealed that the house had once belonged to a solitary tenant infamous for paranoia and secrecy. Had remnants of that dark past seeped into the walls, or was this a deliberate act of menace? I didn't have long to ponder. As dusk approached, I gathered my belongings and prepared for an immediate departure. Every creak, every whisper of wind seemed to promise that the unseen watcher would follow me. I managed to drive away, heart pounding and mind reeling from the horrifying realization that not all that appears abandoned is truly empty. The terror lingered long after the rearview mirror lost sight of the house. If this story sent shivers down your spine, please like, subscribe, and comment below with your country if you've ever felt that unsettling sensation of being observed during your travels. Story 2. Renting an Airbnb in a quiet town usually promised a taste of local life and a welcome respite from urban chaos. I never imagined that a cozy cottage with a storied past could morph into a death trap before my very eyes. The property was charming, with vintage decor and a history steeped in whispered rumors. The first evening was tranquil, until the serenity was violently shattered by a series of unnerving events. Around midnight, while I sat reading by the dim light of a bedside lamp, a series of rapid, insistent knocks erupted at the front door. The sound was measured, almost methodical, as if orchestrated by someone who had rehearsed it. I approached the door with caution, peering through the peephole only to see an empty porch, the night cloaked in heavy darkness. Moments later, a forceful rattling of the door handle sent a jolt of terror down my spine. Instinctively, I dialed 911, my voice shaking as I reported the disturbance. As the seconds ticked by in agonizing slow motion, every sound in the house took on an ominous quality. The quiet hum of the refrigerator, the groan of the old floorboards, all fused into a macabre symphony of impending doom. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had deliberately engineered this intrusion. Within minutes, flashing red and blue lights painted the room in a surreal glow as the police arrived. Their arrival injected a mixture of relief and dread. Officers swept through the property, their steady voices a stark contrast to the chaos of my heartbeat. It was then that they discovered a cleverly hidden secondary door in a seldom used hallway, a door that led to a narrow, dust-choked passage behind the walls. Inside, the corridor revealed the remnants of a clandestine operation, scattered personal items, scribbled notes hinting at surveillance, and a set of keys that unlocked more than just doors. The evidence painted a chilling portrait of a predatory individual who had turned the home into an elaborate trap for unsuspecting guests. The realization hit me hard. This wasn't a random break-in, but the calculated move of someone who had monitored my every step since I arrived. Even as the police meticulously collected evidence, a deep, gnawing terror kept me awake that night. I felt exposed, vulnerable, and entirely under the control of a remorseless mastermind. Although the intruder's twisted intentions were now under investigation, the danger was far from over. I left the cottage at dawn, forever haunted by the knowledge that the terrors hidden in that space were not supernatural but disturbingly human in their cruelty. Story 3. Seeking a peaceful escape, I booked a quaint Airbnb in a secluded coastal town, a beautifully restored Victorian home that promised charm and a taste of local history. Yet, from the moment I arrived, the atmosphere hinted at secrets buried deep within its walls. The calm was a facade that concealed a relentless, pulse-quickening threat. The first night was deceptively serene, with gentle ocean breezes lulling me into a false sense of security. But as darkness deepened, I discovered fragments of a hidden life within the house. In a forgotten drawer in the study, I found a trove of documents, financial records, coded messages, and correspondence that hinted at dangerous, covert transactions. The evidence suggested that the previous owner had been entangled in a web of corruption and illicit deals with individuals whose reputation was shrouded in menace. As I pored over the documents, the sound of hushed voices drifted from the hallway. Peering cautiously around the corner, I caught sight of a figure slipping into a concealed room behind a false panel in the wall. My heart hammered in my chest as I realized that I had unwittingly stepped into a ticking time bomb of criminal intrigue. Every creak of the floor and every distant murmur turned into a warning bell, signaling that someone, or something, was closing in. Determined to piece together the mystery before it was too late, I embarked on a nerve-wracking investigation. I discovered a series of locked compartments containing more incriminating evidence. Photographs of clandestine meetings, bank statements with hidden transactions, and even a map detailing secret rendezvous points in the town. As the storm outside intensified, rain lashing against the windows and wind howling like a predator, I felt the noose of danger tighten. Suddenly, the front door slammed shut with a force that sent tremors through the very foundation of the house. I raced to the window, only to see a black SUV idling ominously at the edge of the driveway. Its presence was a stark, sinister reminder that I was not alone, that I was the target of those desperate enough to silence the truth. With a surge of adrenaline, I grabbed my evidence and fled through a back exit into the chaos of the stormy night. My escape was fraught with peril. Each step outside was a gamble with fate as I navigated slick, unfamiliar streets in search of sanctuary. I eventually found refuge with a sympathetic neighbor, whose trembling hands confirmed that I wasn't the first to face such horror in that house. Though I survived that night, the terror of uncovering a hidden agenda run by dangerous, unscrupulous men still haunts my every waking moment. Every time I try to forget, I remember that lurking threat and the reminder that sometimes, the deadliest horrors are not those of the supernatural, but the cold, calculated malice of human intent.